This video kind of assumes that you're one of those when it comes to math. Take the position of the couple that we're looking at in the upper left, that you hate math. And using Excel on your iPad to perform basic math, and that's really what this video is all about. It's going to put you in a position that you're going to be able to get a lot more from your iPad if you follow what's listed in this tutorial. So when the message comes up, it's math time, it won't follow automatically that the I hate math thing is going to come up, because you're going to be in a position where you can easily solve mathematical problems from the simplest, as outlined in this tutorial, to a lot more complex stuff, which will build on this. So you're going to have more than the power of a calculator at your disposal by using Excel. And this tutorial and the others that you can find if you look at what I've produced and will be producing are going to be available so you can get the most out of Excel on your iPad for doing all kinds of mathematical problems, including some that are pretty darn complicated. Hi, this is Ron again. I say again, hoping that you've seen a couple of my other videos by now. But if not, this one deals with using Excel on your iPad. And it assumes really that you don't know anything about Excel, period. And so it's kind of at a very basic level. And hopefully, if you are partially familiar and you want to skip over parts, you can just fast forward it. But for those of you that haven't really done anything with Excel, this is a good video to get you started. And then, nothing replaces practice and making a few mistakes, I suppose, to get you very proficient at using Excel on your iPad Pro. And Excel works very well on the iPad Pro. Once you recognize that the operating system that you're dealing with on the Pro is certainly not as strong or as complete as what you would have if you were trying to do the same thing on a Mac or a PC. But certainly you can do everything that you want on the iPad Pro once you get started with the basics, and then you can then expand to the more complicated activities. So this is a long video, longer than I really would like it to be, and hopefully if you get tired or bored in the middle or whatever, you can stop it and come back. But it's really a good idea to finish this and either say to yourself, hey, I know how to do all of this stuff. I knew it before and I didn't really learn a whole hell of a lot more. But most likely, if you haven't done a lot of work in Excel, and if you haven't done whatever you have done on the iPad Pro, this video ought to be a real help to you. So with that being said, you can go into the video itself, which is basically going to be showing you the iPad Pro screen and all of the transactions that are required done right on the screen and pretty much as you've seen it. So I'm going to pop back in at the end of that, kind of to say goodbye and to encourage you to make any comments that you would have on what you saw that will help me to make what you're seeing a little better for the next person. So thanks for watching, and I hope you watch to the end, and I'll see you at the end. What you're looking at now is what you would see if you opened up a blank Excel document. And I wanted to show you this one before I actually got into the work that we're going to do, because in terms of the work that we're going to do, I'm going to switch over to a different sheet, and you'll notice that the cells are much bigger in this sheet, and I've done that. I've enlarged the cells just so it's going to be easier for you to see and follow the work that we're going to be doing. Hopefully, you've already looked at the basic menu video that I have that explains to you, if you were doing this, how you would go about enlarging the cells and enlarging the data to a position of being bold so it's easier to see. In order for us to get started, I've already entered in column B some data that we're going to use to demonstrate some of the things that I want to show you. And in the interest of time, I've already entered that stuff, and I've entered it with white type so it doesn't show up until right now. I'm going to tap the font color menu item on the white menu, and I'm going to change the theme colors from white to black. And as you can see, when I do that now, the data has shown up in column B, and that's the data that we're going to be using to actually go through a few very simple samples, including, as you'll see, doing things, at least one thing, incorrectly as a way of pointing out to you the importance of doing it correctly so that you're going to be getting the answers that are correct. So now I've added some questions, left the data the same, and I think that we'll take a little extra time on this because the things that we need to do when we're using Excel are going to pretty much stay the same, even though a lot of the formulas are going to get more complicated. So let's start out with the first item. And the first item is add the first two numbers together. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, and you don't really need Excel or a calculator, I hope, to know that 21 plus 18 is 39. I mean, we can look at that. We can do it with pencil and paper. I suppose we could do it on a calculator. In Excel, if it was more complicated, which it isn't, we would be able to use the formula and equal, and then we would tap the 21, enter the plus sign, tap the 18. Now we can see alongside of the 21 that it says we want to add A3 to A4. You can see that both of those cells are highlighted, and that's what we want to do. And if we're happy that that's what we want to do, we would hit the green check, which is up in the upper right-hand corner, to enter the formula. Now, if we had entered it wrong for one reason or another, we had highlighted the wrong cell or something like that, it is no big deal. We would just hit the red X and it would go away. Then we would be in a position to re-enter equals. We'd highlight the 21, and again we would hit the 18, and we hit the green check. It tells us 39. The next thing that we're asked to do is we're to add the first two numbers together and divide by the last number. Let's say we weren't doing this in Excel. Let's just say we had a list of stuff. What we would do manually was we would add the 21 and the 18 together. We now know that that's 39. And we would divide 39 by 14. And we would get the answer to what is the first two numbers together divided by the last numbers. In other words, underneath this, we could say, if we wanted, equal, and we would highlight the 39, and divided by, we would enter, and we would enter, or we could enter the 14, or we could highlight it. In this case, I'm going to enter it, and I'll tell you a little bit about that when we get a little further. So we know that B3 cell, which is 39, divided by 14, when we hit the green check, it tells us that this would give us 2.79. Now I want to do this on Excel, and I want to do it incorrectly to illustrate a very important point. I'm going to highlight this cell underneath the right answer there, and then I'm going to use Excel by saying equal. I'm going to highlight the 21. I'm going to enter the plus, highlight the 18, 21 plus 18, and then I'm going to put in divided by, and I could either enter the 14 or I could actually even highlight the cell. And when I do that, I get nowhere near the right answer. And if you look at the top left of your screen and you see what we just did, when I wanted to add A3 and A4 together, which would have given me the 39, and divide 39 by the 14, that's not what I accomplished by the way that I entered it. What I accomplished is I took A3 plus A4 divided by A12, 18 divided by the 14. That's what gave me the wrong answer, okay? Anytime that you're using addition and subtraction in your formulas, you have to do it as follows. I should have said equals, and put in the parentheses. Now it's 21 plus 18, and I close the parentheses. What did that do? Those parentheses told Excel that the step one that I wanted done is to add A3 and A4 and get a total. And then once I have the total, I want to divide that total by 14. Now I could enter 14, or I can just highlight the cell. In this case, I highlighted the cell, and when I hit the green check, I got the right answer, 2.79. The message here is anytime you're trying to do a formula in Excel that has pluses and minuses in the transactions or the steps that you want to take, you have to be sure and deploy parentheses to tell Excel how you want the numbers to be grouped. Sounds confusing, but it's not, okay? Now, the next thing that we're asked to do is to total the whole column of numbers. Here again, if we were masochists, we could do it the long way. What does that mean? Well, equal, highlight the 21, plus, highlight the 18, plus, highlight the 52, plus, highlight the 16, plus, highlight the 96, plus, highlight the 22, plus, highlight the 65, plus, highlight the 78, plus, highlight the 13, plus, highlight the 14, and when I've got all of those numbers highlighted, I could now hit the green check. And it tells me that the total of that column is 395. Well, I don't have very many numbers in the column. What if I had 100 numbers or 1,000 or 5,000? What would Excel be saving me if I had to go through and do it that way? Well, you don't. That's the important good news. Instead of what I did, you would use one of the built-in functions in Excel, and we'll get into in later videos a lot more of them. But for the purpose of this one, we would key in equals, and we want the sum of all of those numbers. And so we'll start typing the word sum, and when I do that, you'll see a drop-down menu open up. And the third item on the drop-down menu says sum. I'm going to highlight that. And it asks me now, what numbers do I want summed? And I want to start at the 21, so I'm going to highlight that. You notice that little circle on the bottom. I'm going to touch that with my finger and drag it all the way down so that all of the numbers are highlighted. When I'm happy that I've done that right, I'm going to just tap the green check. And lo and behold, it tells me 395. This would be just about the same speed if there was 100 numbers in that column. So it's a very valuable tool to be able to use Excel to do that. Okay, now it says divide each number by 3.6. Let's go over to the next column, column C, and let's say equal. We're going to highlight the first number. We're going to say divided by, and then we're going to put in 3.6. I'm happy with that. I hit the green check and it tells me 5.8333. Now I could go through on each one of the rows, 18 divided by 3.6, 52, and so on, just like I did when I was playing around with the sum. But that's not necessary. In this case, what I want is, I want to divide each of those numbers by the same number. And there is a function built into Excel on the iPad that makes it easy for me to do that. And to get at it, I'm going to tap the answer that shows in that first. What I'm going to do is tap on the cell that I just used to solve that problem. And when I tap on that cell one time, another menu opens in black, and you'll notice that the last item to the right says fill. I'm going to select fill. Now before I do that, please notice that the square that's highlighted, the cell that's highlighted, there is a circle in the upper left and lower right hand corner of the cell. Once I select fill, you'll notice that the circles disappear and they're replaced by squares. That tells me that this cell is ready to be filled either across or down. And in this case, I'm going to hold the bottom one with my finger and drag it all the way down to the last item. And when I let go, what you're going to see is that I have copied the formula down to each of the other rows of data. Each one of them represents the number divided by 3.6. Let's look at the last question. I'm going to multiply each of the first 5 numbers by the last number, and it says show the result. So I'm going to start opposite the 21 on the top. I'm going to highlight that cell, and I'm going to tell Excel what I want Excel to do is equal this times, and I'm going to multiply it, each one by the last number. I can't highlight that number to get the right answer. I have to enter the 14 manually. I'm going to do it wrong on purpose this first time. I'm just going to highlight the 14. And when I hit the green check, it's going to give me the right answer. Now you'll notice that the answer that it gives me is not the same typeface. And that's no big deal. Remember, we're using Arial. I'm going to change this from what it is to Arial type. And I'm going to change the type size from 11 to 18. So it'll be equal to the same thing in the other cell. And I'm going to hit the bold to make it bold. Okay? Now remember, what I just did is I highlighted the 21 and I highlighted the last number. I multiplied each of the first 5 numbers. My answer is right. I'm going to tap on that, and I'm going to get the fill menu again. It's going to show me the squares. Now, all of the rest of the cells are going to come out with zeros, and they're going to be wrong. Let's just show you that. I'm going to drag it all the way down. Why did that happen? Well, in order to understand why it happened, you have to understand how Excel copies a formula down. The first time we divided the first item, 21, by the last item, 14. What Excel thinks I want to do opposite the 18 is to multiply 18 by the number underneath 14. And there isn't one. This procedure would be operated totally different if you were doing this on a Mac or a PC instead of the iPad. When we want to multiply or divide something or do any activity with something where we use the same number over and over again, we have to enter the formula differently. I'm going to tap the 294 again, and I'm going to enter the formula the way it should have been entered. First thing I'm going to say is equal. I'm going to highlight the 21, and then I'm going to say divided by, but instead of highlighting, not divided by, excuse me, multiplied by, and instead of tapping the 14, I'm going to enter 14. That's telling Excel to use the 14 over and over. When I hit the green check, I get the same 294 that I got before. The difference being, I'm going to tap that cell, I'm going to hit fill, copy it down. Now all my answers are going to represent all of the numbers. Now I only want the first 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last one is 96. So I went too far. No big deal. I'm going to highlight all of those cells, and I'm going to hit the delete. And so now what I've got is what I really wanted to accomplish. The first 5 cells, 21, 18, 52, 16, and 96, multiplied by the number 14. By the way, the things that we're doing are done using the keyboard that you can get for your iPad Pro. The same thing could be accomplished without using the keyboard. You know that if you double click an item or tap it twice, if you don't have a keyboard, you'll get the built-in virtual keyboard that is in Excel. Up to now, everything that we've looked at has used the external keyboard on our iPad Pro. I'd strongly recommend that if you're going to be doing Excel or a lot of other work with Microsoft Office, you're going to create Word documents, you're going to do all kinds of stuff like that, you're going to be using your iPad Pro instead of having a laptop or a desktop computer, that it would make sense for you to get an external keyboard. Be that as it may, and many of you won't. And so now I've shown a spreadsheet that has the same information as we've been working with in the earlier part of this video. And I've disconnected my keyboard. And when I open up Excel, I get the display that you see there that you would get on your iPad Pro. And what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to total this column as an example. So I'm going to start out, I have any keyboard, and I'm going to tap the highlighted cell 2 times. And when I do that, tap it, sometimes 1 tap will do it, it opens up an internal keyboard. And I'm going to type the word total in there. Okay, and when I'm happy that that's what I want, I'm going to hit the green check and it will be entered. Now what I want to do is to highlight the next cell, and I want to calculate what the total is going to be. So what am I going to do? I'm going to tap the cell twice, and the keyboard's going to open. Now you'll notice when I open the keyboard, there's some additional commands. On the lower right-hand side, about halfway down, not really at the very bottom, you'll see where it says ABC and then 1, 2, 3, with the ABC outlined in green. That means that the keyboard that I am using is going to be the one that has letters, just a regular keyboard. I could, if I wanted, tap the 1, 2, 3, and when I do that, I have a keyboard that has all numerics in it. For the sake of this argument, and it really doesn't matter, I'm going to use the ABC 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to key in what it is I want. I'm going to start out by saying equal, and if you remember, we're going to put in the word sum. And when I get sum, it asks me what numbers I want Excel to sum. I'm going to move down. I'm going to highlight the first number in my row, and I'm going to drag that down to the last number. When I see that I've got everything highlighted that I want, I'm going to hit the green check, and it's going to show me what the sum of those numbers is. Now, depending on what I'm going to do, maybe I just want to divide that number by some number. So I'm going to go into the next cell, and I'm going to calculate what is 395 divided by some fictitious number, perhaps 10. So I'm going to tap the cell twice. My keyboard's going to open up. I'm going to key in equals. I'm going to highlight the 395, and then I'm going to highlight the divided by, and I'm going to say 10. When I'm happy that that's what I want, I'm going to hit the green check, and it tells me 39 and a half. I'm going to go over to the next cell. I'm going to highlight it and tap it twice. It opens up again. Now, this ABC 123 is a full keyboard. If all I'm going to be doing is a bunch of mathematical entries, I could decide to use the ABC 123. And in this case, I could key in, let's say I'm going to do the same thing, equals. I could highlight the 395 again. I can put in the divided by from this keyboard, and then just key in 10. Some people find that easier. When I'm happy that that's what I want, I'm going to hit the green check. And again, I get the same answer. It goes back to nothing. If I wanted to add the last two numbers, as an example, the 13 and the 14, again, I could say, I'm going to put it here, tap it twice, and then again, it's going to show me the last keyboard I used. In this case, the last keyboard I used was the all numeric. That's what comes up for me. I'm going to add the last two. So I'm going to say equal. And all I got to do is highlight that and then hit the plus sign from this keyboard. And then the next one. And when I'm happy that that's what I want, I can hit the green check. The other thing that you should know, I mean, and it's a little less convenient than having a separate keyboard, but it works fine. If I tap on this again, it opens up the keyboard. I want to at least point out to you that, again, up in the middle of the page on the right-hand side, it shows that I have the 1, 2, 3, which is the numeric keyboard. By tapping the ABC, I could change that to the regular keyboard if that's what it is that I want. And if I don't want to show the keyboard because it's taken up a lot of my screen and I'm doing something else, in the far lower right-hand side, if I click on that thing with the down arrow there, it takes the keyboard off the screen for now. All I need to do is to double tap on a cell and it'll come back, but it's showing you and anyone else that you can get stuff done on your iPad Pro without having the separate keyboard out going through the expense. And what I would say to you, if you just use it once in a while, and you're not really doing a whole heck of a lot of work, and maybe you're using your iPad Pro when you're on the go, when you're in your car, or you don't want to have the keyboard, which makes it a little bit more cumbersome, then you can operate without the keyboard on your iPad Pro and just use by calling up the virtual keyboard anytime that you want to do that. So pretty much that's everything that we've done as far as doing basic math on the iPad Pro, mainly showing how it was using the keyboard, but also this brief demonstration of how it would work if you didn't do that. Okay, what you've seen now pretty much covers how to do the very basic math stuff on your iPad Pro. And if you've been able to follow the things that I'm saying on here, you're really ready to take the next step into doing a lot more calculating positions that you need to do mathematically. There are also going to be additional videos along the way, which I'm not quite ready at this date, but will be there for you very shortly. It'll show you how to make your spreadsheet look very professional if you're doing it for maybe something in a class or something at work where you need to make a presentation to a group of people. You'll find out that there is a tremendous flexibility in Excel that will help you to do that, and you'll be able to actually create the stuff on your iPad Pro. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. I hope you'll find it in your heart to give me a thumbs up, maybe subscribe so that you'll get additional videos as I'm getting them posted. And so hopefully I will see you again in another video. And thanks again. And please, if you have any comments that I can respond to and you put them right on the comments down below, I will do my best to get your questions or answers and suggestions that you might have taken into consideration in other videos that I might do. So thanks again, and hopefully we'll see you again in another video. You've just watched the video on how to perform basic math on your iPad. And I do recognize the video is very basic. It's just meant to introduce you to the subject. And I might add that it's trying to alleviate your fears. A lot of people are concerned about mathematical stuff. And so when they look at the subject matter, they really shy away from it. But if you're going to make the best use of Excel and your iPad, you're going to really need to get reasonably proficient at math. And it's not a big deal. It becomes very repetitious. The more you work with Excel, the more the stuff is going to stick with you. So don't get discouraged. Just kind of go along. Now, as far as what you saw on this video, if you have comments or questions, underneath the screen, if you're in full screen, you'll see a place where you can do a couple of things. And one of the things you can do is you can enter comments. And I encourage you to do that. If you have questions that you didn't understand something or you need to do something that I didn't explain, put the question down and I will answer them as soon as I can. Definition of that is a day or so. It's not going to take a very long time for me to do that. Your feedback is really going to help me to improve what I'm presenting. So any comments that you have would be appreciated. If you love the video and you give me a thumbs up, well, good. But if you didn't, and you want to give me a thumbs down and you want to tell me why you did that, and what you didn't like, that's okay. That'll again give me some encouragement to do a better job and to revise the video that I have there so that it'll be easier to understand. In addition, what's most important, I think, is for you to subscribe to my channel. When you do that, you'll automatically get copies of the new videos as I post them. Now, you're going to need a Google email address in order for you to subscribe. You don't have to use that email address for your personal email if you're using something else. It would just be an additional email address that you would start, so that because that's what YouTube uses. They're part of Google. And so that's kind of how they want you to do it. And it's easy to set up an account with them. You just go ahead and start it, and they really pretty much walk you through it. So recognize you can access all of the videos that I've done on my website. And if you go into that address that's there, what will come up is a very brief description in each of the videos that I have already posted. And I'm pretty much trying to get one or so a week in addition, so that eventually anything you want to do mathematically in Excel on your iPad is going to be there. If you prefer and you want to just stick in going into YouTube, you can find the whole YouTube channel at this address. It's longer, and you can't just click on it. You're going to have to copy it down and then enter that. But when you do that, what you'll do is you'll see all of the videos that I've posted. Instead of just the link, you'll see the video cover page itself. Either one will get you where you need to go if you want more information or to see any of the other videos that I've done. So at this point, I just want to thank you for watching the math video. I hope you've seen others, and if not, I hope you will see some of the others. And so I would hope to see your name again on one of the other videos that I have posted. And thanks again.